Okay, lovelies, welcome into practice. I have a couple of blocks. Number one, because we're starting with a brief meditation and I like to sit on one. But secondarily, near the end of the practice, we're going to be working with the scale pose where we're in like a lotus or a cross-legged position and kind of trying to pick ourselves up. And I like the added lift that the blocks give me. So if you have availability of blocks, I would grab those. And then start to make your way into a comfortable seated position for our opening meditation. So we are in week 3 of this chakra series. It does not mean you needed to be here for week 1 or 2. You can jump right on in where we are. But we are focusing on the third of the 7 major chakras, which is the solar plexus or the Manipurna Chakra. And it's located right below the rib cage and right above the belly button. So it's kind of this like plexus area right here. And it's this center of empowerment. It's where our sense of like confidence and motivation lives. And if you think about it, when you're feeling pretty confident and motivated, you tend to kind of have this nice tall posture, your shoulders back, and this area of your torso is really open and shining and spacious. And then when you're feeling a little self-doubt, or you're getting your inner critic is really kind of raging, then you kind of tend to slump the shoulders and this part of the posture tends to kind of collapse. So we're really going to work on dropping into that sense of empowerment today. So go ahead and find a nice tall posture. Make sure you've got a nice bit of spaciousness for this solar plexus chakra, hands either on the lap or the knees, closing the eyes. And just take a few rounds of breath, landing in your practice as you are in this moment. Just acknowledging that you've done a series of things just to bring your body to this moment. And the body is here, and the body is breathing. And now we get to do this beautiful thing where we just do what we can with what we have for the next, 42 minutes. The Manipurna Chakra, as I said, is located just below the rib cage and above the navel, and it's the center of our sense of self. It's associated with the fire element, the color yellow, and a sense of confidence. This is where our self-esteem, our motivation, and our sense of individual identity is really rooted. But when this chakra is out of balance, it can result in low self-esteem, a sort of victim mentality, negative self-talk. And so in this practice, we're really going to seek to balance the Manipurna Chakra, making us feel more empowered, motivated, and really clear about our purpose. And taking just about 2 or 3 more breaths, maybe visualizing the color yellow or feeling energy around that energy center below the ribs and above the navel. And we're going to begin to transition into the hatha or the physical portion of the practice. So on your next breath, use the inhale to blink the eyes open. We're going to start to transition into a seated position with our feet in front of us, the width of the mat, hands behind us. Fingertips can face forward or back, whatever feels better for your shoulders. Knees are bent. We're going to take a slow windshield wiper movement as we drop both knees to the right and let your head turn over your left shoulder. We're going to move this into a slow kind of movement here. The head and neck are going to make a half circle, chin down to chest as the knees lift up to the ceiling and the knees drop to the left and the head rolls over the right shoulder. And just alternating at your own pace, letting the head roll through that half circle as the knees sweep in that windshield wiper position from side to side. Just doing about 2 more of these windshield wiper rotations on each side. And seeing if you can open up that spaciousness again below the rib cage and above the navel. This is also quite a bit of core work comes into this chakra. So bringing your knees back up to center, walk your hands back in a little bit closer towards your buttocks, fingertips face forward towards the body. Bring your feet approximately hip distance apart and begin to anchor down into those 4 points of contact as you draw your knees forward, and the pelvis will naturally lift. And I want you to really think of drawing the knees forward. That's going to do all the work for you of lifting your pelvis. I want you to keep your pelvis really elevated as we start to swing back and forth, firing up the core here. So inhale in this upward table. As you exhale, swing the hips down, back, and through the hands as you straighten your knees. Inhaling, swinging forward into your upward table. Exhale, swinging down, back, and through into like a suspended dandasana or staff. Inhaling up. Feeling that stretch in the shoulders, exhaling back and through. Take that 2 more times. Inhaling up, opening that solar plexus towards the sky, exhaling, feeling it fire up as you bring the hips back. Last time, inhale, open that space, plexus chakra, exhale back. Then dropping your hips onto the mat, point your toes and come into a nice supported boat with your arms out in front of you. If your wrists are feeling achy after that previous position, you could roll the wrists here. So I'm feeling a little achiness. I'm going to take that as well. Go the opposite direction. We're going to do some boat play, non-traditionally, because I don't actually like traditional boat, so I don't like doing it. So I do it my own way. So inhale, lift up. Exhale, drop back so your torso is at a diagonal. Now keep that diagonal, but flex your feet and slide your legs until they're straight, and then pull your heels back in. Now point your toes, your spine still at a diagonal. Lift your shins parallel to the floor. Then drop just your toes. Now lift your arms, biceps by the ears. Anybody else shaking? I'm shaking. Exhale, arms down. 2 more times like that. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, back to diagonal. That's it. Flex the feet, push the feet away. Pull them back in, point your toes. Shins parallel to the floor. Toes to the mat. Arms up. Arms down. 1 more time. Lift up. And back. Do you feel the solar plexus? It's right below the rib cage. Flex the feet, push it away. You feel that center of energy. Pull them back in, point your toes. Lift your shins parallel to the floor. You got it. Toes to floor. Arms and down. Lift up, cross your ankles. Step back, downward facing dog. And let this downward facing dog be almost like a little bit of a back bend, because you want to kind of stretch out the front of the belly. So I'm deeply bending my knees, rocking my heels side to side like I'm bicycle pedaling. I'm kind of exaggerating that tilt in my pelvis to get a little stretch to the front of the belly. Inhale forward to plank pose. Keep my toes tucked, but drop my pelvis, pull my heart through. Just get a nice stretch on the front of the abdomen here. 1 more in-breath. Push those heels back as you pull the heart through. Exhale, press up and back down dog. Inhale, shift forward to plank pose. We're going to hold for 5 breaths. That's about 30 seconds. I'm just adjusting my papers here. I love affirmation. You know this about me. As you breathe in, breathing in, I'm confident and empowered. And breathing out, I'm capable and competent. Breathing in, I am confident and empowered. And breathing out, I am capable and competent. Take that 1 more time. Breathing in, I am confident and empowered. Exhaling, I am capable and competent. Forearm plank, lowering 1 forearm and then the other. You could always drop the knees here. 3 breaths, breathing in that confidence, that sense of empowerment. Exhaling out that sense of capability and competence. You are capable of so much. Cultivating that, feeling that fiery energy in the center of your body, right where that solar plexus is located. Last inhale, drop your knees, drop your thighs, drop your pelvis. lower belly to the mat. Pull your heart through the gateway of the upper arms. Sphinx pose. Now, as you breathe in your Sphinx, I want you to do a few things. I want you to take your forearms and push them down into your mat. And then I want you to think of your elbows moving back towards your rib cage. Beautiful. And then I want you to bring your attention back to that Manipurna Chakra. Notice how above the solar plexus chakra, from the rib cage up, we are lifting up, growing towards the ceiling in our Sphinx. And then from that solar plexus chakra down, we are grounding into the earth. So that solar plexus chakra is literally this wheel, this cycle, where this pose is extending in opposite directions. Take one more full breath here. And then as you exhale, slide your palms back underneath your shoulders. You're going to child's pose, but as you press up to all fours, take a moment and round into a cat pose that's going to feel so delicious. And then just keep moving through that cat pose, hips to heels, land in your child's pose, and take a few breaths. This is starting to conclude our warm-up section of the practice. We're going to take one more warm-up pose before we move into sun salutations. And that's going to be rabbit pose, sasangasana. Not a pose we practice all the time, but really good for connecting with this solar plexus area. So keeping the body in this child's pose position, bring your arms back and cup your hands around your heels. Start to tuck your chin towards your chest, bringing the top of the head towards your mat. And then really exaggerate the rounding of the back, almost like that cat pose you were just in. Keep a hold on your heels as you roll to the top of your head and round up into your sasangasana rabbit pose. Now, as you breathe here, I'm just coming out so you can hear my voice. You're contracting the front of that solar plexus chakra, and you're breathing into the back of that solar plexus chakra, opening up that space in the mid-back. Take one more breath here. Exhale, soften, coming out of your rabbit pose. Re-extend your arms forward and revisit your downward facing dog as we start to make that transition into the sun salutation portion of the practice. Taking 2 clarifying breaths before we move into our first Surya Namaskaram. Maybe remembering that affirmation that as you breathe in, you're confident and empowered. And as you breathe out, you're capable and competent. Looking to the front of your mat, walking, stepping, or hopping the feet to the back of the wrists. Inhale, take a half lift, long spine on your in-breath. Exhale, release, and find a nice forward fold on the out-breath. In-breath picks you up all the way to standing mountain pose. Hands to heart center as we prepare for 3 Surya Namaskaram A's with boat pose. Dhanurasana, bow pose as our Vinyasa pattern. So sweeping the arms forward, up, and back. Exhaling, folding over the legs. Taking a half lift here, lengthening through the spine, getting nice and spacious through the Manipurna Chakra, planting the palms, stepping back to that plank position. Nice full in-breath here. Exhale, lowering either through chaturanga or all the way to the mat. Bending the knees, reaching back, holding either onto the tops of the feet or the front of the ankles. Dhanurasana bow pose, pushing the feet or the ankles into the hands, lifting the thighs, feeling yourself resting on that solar plexus chakra. Breath in. Exhale, releasing, either reversing through chaturanga or press through all fours, round through your cat. Maybe roll to a cow, tuck your toes, everybody meeting downward facing dog. 2 breaths to clarify and out. Breathing in. Start to prepare for that transition, looking forward, moving to the front of your mat. Half lift on the in-breath. Exhaling to fold. So much of this chakra is working with trusting your inner leadership, standing all the way up. Hands to heart center. So I'm offering shapes. I'm offering a flow, reaching the arms forward, up, and back. But you're trusting your own inner leadership in this practice. Inhaling, half lift. Making your way back through the plank. You could take a chaturanga or a knees, chest, and chin as you make your way all the way to the mat. Dhanurasana, remembering if Dhanurasana is not in your practice, you could keep the legs long and take a locust pose. Resting on that solar plexus chakra, breathing in. Exhale, either reverse chaturanga or take a cat-cow. Everybody meeting in downward facing dog, where we take a couple clarifying breaths. Breathing in, reconnecting with that sense of confidence and empowerment. Breathing out, connecting with that sense of capability and competence. Looking to the front of the mat, walking, stepping, or a light hop. Half lift and fold. Trusting your inner leadership as we move into the last Surya A, standing tall mountain, hands to heart center. Last Surya Namaskaram A, lifting up, folding forward. Half lift, feeling yourself lengthen through the spine. Exhale, back to plank. Your navigation of the Vinyasa down to the mat, either locust or Dhanurasana. Lifting to the back bend. Exhaling, either reverse chaturanga or a cat and cow. Everybody gathering in the downward facing dog, 2 breaths. Taking control of your practice. So much of the energy of balancing the Manipurna Chakra is reminding ourselves of our own ability to take action. So it starts with trusting our inner leadership, developing that sense of confidence. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. And then from that inner leadership, transition, half lift, we start to take action and control. Sweeping arms forward, up and back. Hands to heart center. 2 lunge salutations. Release the arms. Take a full in breath. Exhale, hands come to heart center. That's position 1. Keep it flowing, reaching the arms forward, up and back. That's 2. Folding over the legs. That's 3. We'll lead with the left as we step the left foot back. Low lunge. Sweeping the arms up. We're going to keep this flowing. Hands come down to the mat. Step back to a one-legged plank. So left toes tuck. Right leg is going to sweep back and hover. Now I'm going to flex my right foot and stack my right toes over my left heel. Good. Now I'm going to pivot everything to the left. Plop. Reach my right arm up. I'm in a side plank. Take 2 breaths. And out. 1 more breath in. As you breathe out, right hand down, pivot everything back to that plank with the feet stacked. Relift your right leg so it's hovering. Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. 2 breaths. And out. So again, remember, trusting your inner leadership. So when I suggest something that's not right for you, your inner leadership says, that's not really going to work for me. I'm going to make a different, better decision for myself. Look to the front of your mat space. Step your left foot forward between your thumbs. Lower the right knee down. Inhaling, sweeping forward and up. That's actually what growth looks like, is knowing how to trust our own inner leadership. Hands come down, step the right foot forward, fold. Taking action from that place of confidence, reaching forward, up and back. 11. Hands to heart center is 12. 1 more of these lunge salutations. Release the arms, breath in. Exhale, nourishing breath out, hands to heart center. Inhaling, reaching forward, up and back. Exhaling to fold. Right foot's going to lead. Step it back. Right knee down. Inhaling. Up. Exhaling, step it back. The left leg is going to hover in that plank. Take this slow. Don't rush it. Stack left toes over the right heel. Just feel that for a moment. And then plop it over to the right. Whoop. We twist right from that solar plexus. Left arm to ceiling. 2 full breaths. You're allowed to take up your space. Looking down, left hand down, pivot back to that stacked plank, and then hover your left leg. Chaturanga, up dog, down dog for a couple breaths. And the thing is when we're trusting our inner leadership, when we're taking up space that's ours, that doesn't mean we're taking up other people's space, it just means we're taking up our own space, then we grow in confidence. Start to look to the front of the mat. The right foot's going to step forward. Left knee is going to melt down. We take a breath in, controlling the practice. Exhaling, hands come down. Step the left foot forward, fold in. Reaching forward, up and back. Standing in our personal power. Hands to heart center. Releasing the arms, close your eyes for a little micro meditation. Noticing anything that's shifted in the last 21 minutes of our practice, maybe noticing how the breath has changed, the heart rate, the sense of energy and purpose in your body may have shifted. Notice that. And then an offering for your thought right now is, what makes you feel confident and empowered? And you can personalize that. What makes me feel confident and empowered? One more breath right here. And then blinking open the eyes. This is a great time for a sip of water, any adjustments that you need to make. I want to clarify one shape in the standing sequence because we're only going to do the standing sequence once on each side. We're going to take our time in every shape to really feel what comes up. But one particular shape, I made it up, to be completely honest. I'm calling it a standing wind relieving pose. So wind relieving pose is, we're going to do it on our back later, but it's when our knees are into our chest. We're going to do a one-legged version of that standing. So we're going to come from standing splits. I'm going to kind of glue together my inner knee and thigh. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to find the foot and pull it in. And then I'm going to see if I can find my balance with my hand to my hip. Okay? So it's this glued together from knee to inner thigh and then pulling in. And then I'm folded. So in wind relieving pose, we have that contact of thigh to belly, and we get that again here in that standing balance. Okay? So that's near the end of the sequence. Know it's coming up. So find yourself at the front of the mat. Find your mountain pose. Feel confident and empowered, which is so much that energy of the mountain. That sense of, I'm confident because I'm stable. I'm empowered because nothing is going to shift me. And so you can kind of merge that mountain energy with this solar plexus affirmation. Keeping your eyes open and sharp, sweep your arms forward and up. Exhale, fold over the legs. We're going to take the first shape, which is going to be a high lunge. So soften your knees, step your left foot to the back of the mat. Nice stacking of right knee over right ankle. And then when you feel stable and balanced in the feet and the legs, start to reach up towards the sky, finding your high lunge. And just take a couple breaths here. This is a pose that we can use to connect with so many of our different energy centers. But right now we're focused on this solar plexus. So I want you to feel that sense of confidence, that sense of being your identity, being stable and grounded in the shape. And then we're going to twist this open. So bring your arms forward, parallel to the floor, and then sweep your right arm back. We did this last week in the second week of the series practice as we revolve our torso around to the right. Now really think of that revolving energy. Remember, the Sanskrit for chakra is wheel. So that wheel of energy is spinning around to the right. Keep reaching your right arm back. One more breath right here. And then we're going to come into revolved triangle. So look at the front of your mat, bring your right hand to the right side of your waist, and then go ahead and straighten both legs and plant your back heel at about a 45-degree angle. Reach your left arm up and get as tall and long through your torso as you can, and then keep that length as you hinge forward. Then twist the torso to the left. Left hand could land on the shin. You could bring a block in for support, or the floor, whatever's going to feel best for you. And then Totally optional to re-extend the right arm. You do not have to. It's like an exclamation point on top of the pose. Feel how that Manipurna Chakra is kind of the orbit around which this pose is happening. Last breath here. I know this is crazy hard. And then come back to high lunge. So look down at the mat, bend your right knee, sweep your right arm down, and lift back up into high lunge. And let this be kind of a grounding pose because we're coming into a standing series of balances, okay? We're gonna come forward. Left knee is gonna lift up towards our belly button as we transition to a standing balance. Hands to heart center. I'm gonna scoot back so I don't kick my wall. Now you can stay right here and just work to extend your left leg. Or if you wanna bind, take your hands, clasp hold of your left heel, and extend your left heel forward. Breathe for 2. Breathe for 1. You're gonna come right back where you were. Bend your left knee, hands to heart center, get stable. Now we're gonna extend our energy, warrior 3. So my arms are gonna come forward, my left leg is gonna come back, Virabhadrasana 3. Stand in your power here. You've got 2 more breaths. You can do this, trusting your inner leadership if you need to change something, but remembering you're capable and competent. Kundalini squat, hands to heart center. Tuck your left knee behind your right knee and deeply bend like in a squat. Hold, 2. You're powerful. Remember that fire energy. We're tapping into it. Standing splits, hands to the mat. Reach your left leg to the ceiling. Standing splits. Now we're going to start to build that standing wind relieving pose. So bend your left knee and connect your left inner knee to your right inner knee. Glue up the inner thighs. And then reach up with your left hand, find your left foot, and pull it towards your left glute. Stay folded and see if you can lift your right hand to the right side of your waist and balance for 3. For 2. You're coming to chair pose. Both hands down, left foot next to right foot. Bend the knees, sink down. Utkatasana, chair pose. Find that sense of confidence and competence again. Last couple poses of the sequence. We're going to twist left elbow to right knee. You could also just come in between the knees if you want to take a really mild twist. You decide. If you're in a flying mood today, you could always take this as a transitional point to flight. Revolved side crow, Ekapada Kundinyasana 1. Any of those things are available. Last breath, Parivrita Utkatasana. Looking down at the mat, Vinyasa flow, hands to mat. Walk it back, flow it out. Down dog or child's pose for 5 breaths. When we balance the Manipurna Chakra, we are cultivating a deep sense of empowerment. We're reconnecting with our sense of confidence, not pride, confidence. And we're getting clearer and clearer about our purpose and our potential. One more breath, either in down dog or child's pose. If you happen to be in Balasana child's pose, use your next breath to transition forward and up into downward facing dog. And then we'll all make our way to the front of the mat as we lift our head, walking, stepping, or if you're in a hopping mood, take a half lift on your in-breath, exhaling to fold.
Embodying that sense of peace that comes with true confidence, rising up to your mountain.
Hands to heart center. Moving into the second side, sweep the arms out and up, folding over the legs.
Right foot is going to step back into a high lunge, making sure you have the pose building from the bottom up. Feet are stable, legs are stable. Find your balance, lift the torso, reach the arms. Knowing you can always return to that affirmation. I'm breathing in because I'm confident and I'm empowered. As I breathe out, I remember that I'm capable, I'm competent. Reach the arms forward, coming into your twist. Left arm twist back. That solar plexus is like radiating around to the left. It's the source, the originator of the shape. Remember that heat that we felt when we were doing that kind of boat play in the opening warm-up. Letting that heat turn you around in that twist. Revolve triangle. I look to the front of my mat, left hand to my waist, hop the back foot in, stabilize my legs. Inhale, reach up tall. Exhale, long spine as I hinge forward. And then come into my twist. As I come into this twist, I realize I'm standing in my own personal power. I'm allowed to take up my space. And I'm trusting my own inner leadership on what this shape needs to look like in my body right now, because I'm in control of this practice. Last breath here. I'm going to come back to a high lunge, bending my left knee as I sweep my left arm down, forward, up, rising back up in my personal power into that strong, stable high lunge. And then I'm going to take this big transition forward as my right knee comes towards my navel and I stand in a balancing pose. I'm just shifting back so I don't kick my beloved plant. You could extend your right leg or use your hands to clasp hold of the right heel and kick that right foot forward. Breathing 2. 1. Bending the knee, standing back up. Gather that energy in the center of that solar plexus, that fiery energy, and then extend it in both directions as you extend arms forward, right leg back, Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3. 3 breaths. 2. Big in breath. As you exhale, Kundalini squat, hands to heart center. Tuck right knee behind left knee, squat, hold, 2. Last breath. Standing splits, hands to mat, right leg up. That should feel like a bit of a relief, hopefully. And then start to build your standing wind relieving pose. So I connect my right knee to my left knee. I kind of glue together my inner thighs. Right hand comes up to clasp the top of my foot, pull it into my glute. And then I fold, find my balance. Left hand to waist, 3. 2. Oh, chair pose. That's way harder than it looks. Utkatasana. I'm taking a shallow chair. I'm tired after that previous pose. I'm going to take a nice shallow chair. One more breath here. And then twist. Sometimes we think this twisting chair has to be this super aggressive pose. It does not. Trust your inner leadership. What does it need to be? You're not proving anything to anybody. And then if you want to fly here, this is like a little launching pad for any form of flight that feels good to you. Coming back and moving through Vinyasa. Everybody coming to a child's pose here, concluding the standing portion of the practice. And then looking forward, coming to sit in the center of your mat in a comfortable cross-legged position. So I want to be really clear that this is not a practice that was really dedicated to a lot of hip opening or moving you towards lotus pose. So if lotus pose, which is what we're about to practice, is not right for your body or is not in your practice at all, then any comfortable cross-legged position is going to be fine here, okay? I would invite you to bring your blocks, if you have them, and just place them on either side of your body so that they're accessible. And then from your comfortable cross-legged position, everybody check that your right shin is in front of your left. So we want the right shin in front. If you're going to start to build your lotus, Padmasana, I'm going to invite the right foot to come up towards the left hip crease first. And one option is a half lotus, where you can actually rest your right knee on the kind of instep or the arch of your left foot. It's a nice kind of resting spot, and that's a good resting halfway point. If you want full lotus, left foot comes up to the right hip crease, okay? And then invite these blocks a little bit closer, more snug to the outer hips. This is a solar plexus practice. So whatever your legs are doing right now, I actually want you to connect with this place right here, this Manipurna Chakra. Hands are going to come onto blocks or mat, and we're going to see if we can pick up some degree of the body. As you plant your palms, I want you to use your shoulders to push down. Think shoulders away from your ears, hips back, knees up, and see if you can connect with that solar energy in the center of your torso for 2. It's hard to talk. Take one more in-breath. And then slowly settle yourself down. And then we're going to come into a nice little unwound boat pose. If you're in lotus like I am, I'm going to invite you to take your left peace fingers around your left big toe and extend your left leg forward. If you're in a different version, maybe you have your right leg down and just your right leg is up. Maybe you hover into like a little funky modified boat pose position. So you could still be in half lotus or some other position for 2, for 1. And then either coming to a meditative seat, or if you're craving another vinyasa, this would be your last vinyasa opportunity of the practice. You could cross the ankles and move through a vinyasa. Otherwise, take a few breaths in a seated meditative pose. We're going to take that on the second side. Wherever you are, left shin in front of right. If you're coming into Ardha Padmasana half lotus, left foot comes up into right hip crease. That left knee could rest in the arch of the right foot. And this is your pose. If you're coming into full lotus, the right foot comes up into the left hip crease and settles in. Invite the blocks in, snuggle them to the outer hips. Shoulders are going to go down away from the earlobes, using the shoulders in the upper back as you push down. Hips go back, knees lift up, holding for 3. For 2, you may just be lifting the hips. 1 more in-breath. And then slowly coming down, a little bit of boat play. You could stay in this lotus, right peace fingers around right big toe as you extend that right leg. You could take a little hybrid funky position. I love that. 2 breaths. Last in-breath. Unraveling the legs wherever they are. Rolling onto your spine. Pressing up into one nice bridge pose. Arms alongside you, feet are planted, knees go forward as the pelvis lifts up. And you feel this kind of blooming open. Remember that Manipurna Chakra below the ribs, above the belly button. I want you to think of opening up space in that part of the body. Last 2 breaths in this bridge pose. As you exhale, slowly roll down onto the mat, and then classic Pavanamuktasana, wind relieving pose, knees into the chest. For wind relieving pose, we let the knees separate and move up to the armpits. You either place hands on the front of the shins to pull them in, or you could wrap the elbows around the knees and interlace the hands or hold opposite wrists. This should feel like you are giving yourself a hug. The floor, the mat, the earth is supporting you. And you are giving yourself this loving, compassionate squeeze. We're going to set up for our final asana of the practice, a simple spinal twist. Bring your feet down to the mat and push down into the feet just enough to lift your hips and move them over to the left side of your mat. And then bring the knees back into the chest. And then let both knees fall to the right. Left arm reaches behind you and open. And this pose is sometimes called Jatara Parivartanasana, which is revolved abdomen pose. And so if you think of where the solar plexus chakra is, it's like you're wringing it out, this revolved abdomen pose. And then really being intentional as we slowly bring the knees back up to center, taking the time to bring the feet down to the mat, lift your pelvis and move it over to the right side of your mat. So it's a little bit wonky. Then the knees come back into the chest, and then we let them fall over to the left, and that just amplifies that revolved feeling in the abdomen, right arm reaching back behind you. Last couple of breaths. And then making your way into a shape for shavasana as you start to come out of the twist, recenter the pelvis. As we drop into just a couple of minutes of stillness here, anchored by this quote that we are forces of light and fire. We are unshakable, unstoppable, and unafraid to take up our space. When we are balanced in this Manipurna solar plexus chakra energy, we know that we are forces of light and fire. We move through our days with this knowledge that we are unshakable. We approach obstacles and difficulties knowing that we are unstoppable. We are unafraid to take up our own space. Please give yourself 2 more rounds of unrushed breath, exactly as you are. And at the conclusion of that second breath, start to reawaken your body, first by deepening the breath, and then through subtle movement. Eventually, in your own way and in your own time, you can begin to make your way back up to a comfortable seat. As you take this seat, maybe closing your eyes, and perhaps if you're a visual person like me, visualizing an orb of yellow light encircling you, empowering you to trust your own inner leadership, empowering you to take up your space, empowering you to stand in your own personal power. Please bring the palms of the hands together to close this practice, where we ask that the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light, which sounds like these 4 words in Sanskrit. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Victory to all of our practices. Jai.